The wind outside the space station howled like a wild beast. Jace sat at his small table, sipping hot synth coffee. He was alone, as always. His outpost was on the edge of the Telvanni belt, far from Earth. Far from war, far from love. He didn't expect visitors. But that night, a crash shook the sky. The alert light blinked red. Jace jumped up, pulled on his coat, and ran to the edge of the rocky plateau. A small alien shuttle had fallen, smoke rising from its nose. It looked like a fighter, fast, old, and very damaged. He grabbed his gear and ran toward the wreck. Inside, the pilot was alive. She was small, thin, with gray-blue skin and silver eyes. Her white hair was tied behind her pointed ears. Armor plates hung loose on her arms, and one leg was clearly broken. Blood blue and thick dripped from her lip. "Stay still," Jace said, kneeling beside her. "You are human." She asked, voice sharp but weak. "Yes, you're safe. I'll help you. Help." She scoffed. "Humans don't help. They whimper." He ignored the insult. Carefully, he carried her to his outpost. She was light, like a feather, but she kept whispering curses under her breath. Inside, he laid her on his medical bed. "Don't move," he said softly. "Your leg's broken. I need to fix it." She hissed. "Ouch. Weak hands like yours can fix." "Nothing," he smiled. "We'll see." 2 days passed. The alien girl who called herself Jayla was healing fast. She barely thanked Jace. She spent her time training with her arms, even with one leg in a splint. Every morning she would do push-ups beside his bed. Every night she would insult his species before sleeping. "You humans live soft lives. No edge, no fire," she said. "I didn't know we were having a fire contest," Jace replied calmly. She narrowed her eyes. "Even in bonding, you are weak." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Bonding," she smirked. "Sexual. Strength, desire, power. My people burn like stars. You? Flickering candles." Jace coughed in surprise. "You don't hold back, do you? Why should I? Truth is truth. Even our data says humans are slow, boring, weak, especially in bed." He didn't answer. He just poured more tea into her cup and walked away. That night, Jayla stared at the ceiling. Of his quarters, arms behind her head. "Have you never made a female scream, human?" He laughed quietly. "That's not something I track on charts." She leaned closer. "Maybe I should test you, just to prove how weak you are." Jace didn't take the bait. He simply said, "You need more rest." Jayla didn't sleep. Her pride was loud in her chest. This human, he didn't get angry, didn't argue. He stayed kind, calm, strong in a way she didn't understand. And that bothered her. On the 5th night, thunder roared across the sky. A plasma storm was coming, strong enough to knock out power. Jace secured the station, locked down systems, and lit the emergency lights. The cold came quickly. The heater shut off. He brought out extra blankets. "You'll need this," he said, handing her a thermal sheet. "I don't need your pity," she muttered. "It's not pity. It's warmth. Take it." She hesitated, then grabbed it. Later, as the wind screamed outside, Jayla entered Jace's room. He looked up from his book. She stood there, arms crossed, the blanket around her shoulders. "It's cold, I know. Let me sleep here, just to be warmer." He nodded and moved over. She lay down beside him, stiff and silent. Minutes passed, then she whispered, "Why are you not touching me?" He looked confused. "Because you didn't ask me to. Every male would try. But you don't. Respect doesn't make me weak," Jace said. Jayla turned her head. In the dim red light, she stared at him with strange eyes. "Maybe," she whispered, "I was wrong about you. And in that small, quiet room where a tiny alien warrior had once insulted every part of his kind, something began to shift. Not with heat, not with passion, but with something far deeper, something strong. The next morning, the sun rose weak and red over the rocky hills outside the outpost. Inside, Jace was already up, making breakfast. The storm had passed, but the cold still crept through the walls like a ghost. Jayla sat on the edge of her bed, silent. She had not said much since the night she slept in Jace's room. She didn't mock him, she didn't tease him. She just watched him quiet, sharp, like a hunter studying. Prey, Jace noticed, but didn't speak of it. He poured warm soup into a bowl and placed it in front of her. Eat, he said kindly. Jayla took the spoon, dipped it, and ate slowly. This is good, she said, after a long pause. That's the first kind thing you've said to me. He smiled. Don't get used to it. But her voice didn't sound cold. It was softer now. As the days passed, Jayla moved around more. Her leg was healing. She still trained, still grunted through her exercises, still refused help. But now she asked questions too. What's that machine? Why do you do that? Why do humans eat sweet things in the morning? Jace answered every question with patience. At night, they often sat together near the solar heater. Jace would read. Jayla would clean her armor or sharpen her knife. The silence between them was no longer awkward, with something calm, peaceful. One night, she stared at him across the small table. Why don't you ever try to impress me? She asked. JSC looked up. Should I? She leaned forward. Most males try to win me. You don't. I don't think people should be trophies, he said simply. Not even fierce little alien warriors. She blinked. That was oddly charming. I'll take that as a compliment. Jayla looked away, but a small smirk touched her. Lips. Later that week, Jace was fixing the water purifier when he heard footsteps behind him. You need help? Jayla asked. He turned, you offering. She nodded once. They worked together for an hour. She handed him tools, tightened bolts, and held pipes in place. When they finished, he wiped sweat from his forehead. You're good at this, he said. Jayla looked at her hands. No one's ever said that. Back home, I'm only trained to fight, nothing else. Well, here. You're free to be anything you want. She stared at him, her eyes unreadable. That night, something changed. Jayla sat beside Jace at the heater, closer than before. She didn't have her armor on, just simple clothes he gave her. Her white hair fell around her face, and she looked almost peaceful. Tell me about your world, she whispered. Jace told her about Earth, about the oceans, the forests, the cities, and the music. He told her about his childhood, his dreams, and the people he lost. She listened quietly, her eyes wide. No one's ever spoken to me like this, she said. Like I'm more than a soldier. You are more. She turned her head. You don't know me. I know enough. Jayla stood suddenly. Why are you kind to me? I insulted you. I called your kind weak. Jace didn't answer right away. Then he said, because maybe kindness is the strength you've never seen. Jayla stepped closer. Her voice was softer now. Back home, I was nothing without my rank. Here, I feel different. Like I matter, Tio, he said. And that night, she stayed in his room again. Not because it was cold. Not because she was mocking. But because she wanted to. In the middle of the night, Jace woke to find her sitting up beside him. Can't sleep? He asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she whispered, my people never hug, never hold, never care. They only fight. But you look at me like I'm not broken. You're not, he said gently. She looked down, her fingers trembling. Then why do I feel like I'm changing? Jace didn't speak. He reached out and placed a hand on hers. Jayla didn't. Pull away in that silence, two worlds touched human and alien. Not with power, not with pride, but with something neither of them fully understood. Connection? Jayla stood in front of the mirror, staring at herself. Her leg was almost healed. Her skin had new color. Her eyes were no longer cold, like ice, but confused, soft, even warm. She touched her face and whispered, "What's happening to me?" Behind her, Jace called from the kitchen. "You want tea or juice this morning?" "Tea," she replied, without thinking. That word felt strange on her tongue. She was a warrior. She wasn't supposed to like tea. She wasn't supposed to like comfort. But here, under this strange human roof, she liked both. Later that day, Jace was outside repairing the energy shield. The wind was strong. Dust blew into his eyes. He struggled with the wires as the panel sparked. Jayla watched him from the doorway. "You need help again?" she asked. He grinned. "Only if you promise not to call me weak afterward." "I can't promise that," she said, but there was laughter in her voice now. She walked out, knelt beside him, and handed him the right tools before he even asked. Together, they fixed the shield quickly. When it powered back on, Jace raised his hand, high five. Jayla frowned. "What is that?" "Just do it." He tapped her palm lightly. She stared at her hand, unsure. Strange tradition. "Yeah," he said, "but it means we did something good." She looked at him, quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I want to do something more." Jace turned. "Like what?" "I want to test you." "Test me." She stepped closer. "You remember when I said humans have weak sexual strength?" He coughed. "Hard to forget. I want to test that again, but not just physically. I want to know if there's more to human bonding than I was taught." Jace's expression changed. He stood slowly. "Jayla, you don't have to do anything. You don't want to." "I do want to," she whispered. "But not for war, not for pride, for truth." That night, the lights were low. The heater made the room glow orange. Jayla sat beside Jace on his bed. No armor, no weapons, just silence. She looked nervous. "Do you think I'm strange?" she asked. "No," Jace said gently. "I think you're brave." She looked at him. "I've fought monsters, led squads, survived death. But right now, I'm afraid." He reached out, but slowly. As if giving her time to say no, she didn't stop him. When his hand touched her cheek, she closed her eyes. "You're not weak," she whispered. "You never were broken," he replied. They leaned in, their first kiss. Wasn't wild, it wasn't fire. It was slow, gentle. Real Jala's fingers clung to his shirt like she was drowning. And for the first time in her life, she let herself fall not in battle, but into someone's arms. Later, wrapped in warmth and silence, Jayla lay beside Jace, her head on his chest, his fingers brushing her back. She wasn't shaking anymore. "I was taught bonding is just for breeding," she said softly. "No love, no emotion." And now? She lifted her head and looked into his eyes. "Now, I feel something stronger than any battle rage." Jace smiled. "Welcome to humanity." She smiled back, a real smile. "I think I like it here." Outside, the stars blinked quietly. Inside, two hearts beat in rhythm, one human, one alien. And for the first time, Jayla didn't feel like a soldier. She felt like a woman. Safe. Seen. Loved. The stars outside the outpost flickered like cold candles. The wind had quieted. The silence of the night was soft, almost sacred. Inside, the room felt warmer than ever before. Jayla sat on the edge of the bed, her bare feet touching the floor. She wore one of Jace's old shirts. It was far too big for her. The sleeves hung past her elbows, and the hem reached her knees. But she didn't care. Smelled like him. Clean, warm, safe. Jace was across the room, fixing the edge of the heater. His hands moved calmly. He didn't look nervous, but his heart was beating fast. He didn't know what tonight truly meant. He only knew it mattered. Jayla finally spoke. Her voice was quiet. Back home, after a warrior bonds, she returns to battle the next day. No one asks if she felt anything. No one cares. Jace stood slowly, and here, she turned her head. Here, everything feels new, strange, and I'm scared that if I feel too much, I'll lose the soldier in me. He walked over and sat beside her. Maybe you're not losing it. Maybe you're finding something stronger. Jayla looked into his eyes. You think softness is strength? Think love is? She didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, she leaned into him. Her hand found his. Her head rested on his shoulder. For a long time, they just sat there, breathing together. No rush, no heat. Just peace. Then she whispered, "Will you stay close tonight?" "Always," he said. They lay down under the same blanket. At first, there was space between them. Quiet tension. Unsure hearts. But slowly, her fingers reached across the sheet and found his. Then her leg brushed against his. And finally, she moved closer, resting her head on his chest again. "Your heartbeat," she said. "It's strong. So is yours." She chuckled softly. "I never thought I'd fall for a man who makes tea and reads books. I never thought I'd fall for a warrior who nearly stabbed me with her words." They both laughed. It wasn't loud, but it was real. The hours passed slowly. They spoke about their dreams, their past, their pain. Jayla shared things she never told anyone, not even her commanders. "I was born in a hatch bay," she said. "My mother never saw me. I was trained like a tool, not a child." Jace listened, never interrupting. She turned to face him. "But you? You look at me like I matter. Even when I wear your ugly shirt. Especially when you wear my ugly shirt," he smiled. She laughed again, this time brighter than. There was silence again. Not the awkward kind. The peaceful kind. Jayla placed her hand on his chest. "This is what bonding should feel like." Jace nodded. "This is what love feels like." Her eyes widened. "Love? Yes," he said. "But only if you feel it too." She looked down, then up. "I do," she whispered. "And it scares me more than war." He kissed her forehead. "That's how you know it's real." That night, they didn't chase fire. They didn't burn like her people believed bonding should. Instead, they glowed slow, quiet, deep. When morning came, Jayla was still in his arms, still wearing his too big shirt, still breathing the same air. And for the first time in her life, she didn't want to go back. Not to the ship. Not to the war. Not to the old HFY law. She woke before him, watching his face as he slept. She whispered, "I thought you were weak, but you're the strongest person I've ever met." And when he stirred and pulled her closer in his sleep, she smiled. Because now she knew the first night hadn't just changed him, it had changed her forever. Jayla stood near the window of the outpost, staring at the rising sun. Her arms were crossed, her face calm, but her mind full of noise. It had been 3 nights since she gave herself to Jason, not just her body, but her heart. And now, something inside her had changed. Her instincts told her she wasn't alone anymore. Not just emotionally, but maybe even physically. She placed a hand over her belly. Could it be she had never thought of having a child? Warriors were not mothers, but now, the thought didn't scare her. It warmed her. Jace walked in, rubbing his eyes and yawning. "You're up early." Jayla didn't turn. "I heard something outside." He looked concerned. "A sound." "A ship," she said quietly. They both rushed to the scanner. Jace's fingers moved quickly across the panel. The screen lit up. "One ship. Fast, not human." Her people had found her. Within an hour, the ship landed just outside the outpost. The ground shook. Jayla stood in full armor, her face hard again. But her heart felt different now. 3 warriors stepped out. Tall, sharp-eyed, proud, their leader, Commander Thirak, removed his helmet and stared at her. "Jayla of Taldrak," he said coldly, "you were reported missing." "I was never missing," she replied. "I crashed. I survived. And now you sleep in the arms of a human." He growled. Jayla didn't flinch. "Yes, I bonded with him." Thirak's eyes burned. "You are trained better than this. Bonding with a human is dishonor." "To you," she said. "Not to me." Jace stepped forward. "She's free to choose." The second warrior raised his gun. Silence, human. Jayla stood in front of Jace. "If you harm him, I will destroy all of you." The tension was sharp. One move, and the ground would turn red. Thirak finally lowered his weapon. "You've broken caste law, Jayla. You will return with us for judgment." "I won't go," she said. "You have no choice." "I made my choice 3 nights ago," she whispered. "And I'm not leaving him." The other warriors looked at each other. Whispers passed between them. One even looked unsure. Thirak stepped closer. "You shame the blood of Taldrak." Jayla looked him in the eye. "Maybe that blood needs to change." Back inside the outpost, Jayla paced while Jace sat by the window. "They'll come back." "With more," she said. "They won't let this go. Then we run." He asked. She shook her head. "They'll find us anywhere. Then we fight." She looked at him, a sad smile on her face. "You really are one of us now." Jace stood. "No, I'm still human, but I fight for what I love." She stepped closer. "Even me." He nodded. "Especially you." That night, they made plans. They knew more ships would come. But they also knew something the warriors didn't. Love makes you stronger than training ever could. Jayla wasn't just a soldier anymore. She was a protector, a mate, maybe even a mother. As she sat beside Jace, she finally whispered, "If they make me choose between you and them, I'll choose you." Jace took her hand gently. "You already did." Her voice cracked slightly. "Then I'll protect what we have, even if it costs me everything." He kissed her forehead. "You're not alone." In the skies above, more stars began to move. The war wasn't over, but now they were ready, and Jayla, once a weapon of war, had found her reason to fight, not for orders, not for rank, but for love, for something worth living for. The sky above the outpost had turned dark. Not from clouds, but from ships. Jayla stood at the edge of the rocky hill, her sharp eyes, watching as 3 more warships appeared in the distance. They floated like silent giants, full of proud warriors, full of judgment. "They came faster than I thought," she whispered. Jace stood beside her. His hands were steady, but his heart beat like a drum. "How many soldiers?" "Too many," she said, "but they don't understand us. That gives us power." He looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Smiled slightly. "They think love is weakness. They'll never expect us to be strong because of it." They returned to the outpost and locked every door. Jayla placed weapons on the table, human tools. Alien blades, stun guns, shields. Jace had helped repair every single one in the last few weeks. "This won't be a fair fight," he said. "No fight is," she replied, strapping a belt across her chest. "But we're not here to win by force. We fight to protect what we are. Jace handed her a small device. What's this? Memory stone, she said. It records feelings, not just images, but what we feel during moments of choice. Why? Are you giving it to me? If I fall, I want my people to see what love looked like. He didn't want to take it. But he did. The first warning came as a loud hum in the air. Jayla's old commander, Thirak, stood outside, calling through the communicator. Jayla of Taldrak, his voice echoed. Step out. Face judgment. We offer no mercy. Jayla replied, her voice calm and clear. Then I do not ask for mercy. I ask for truth. Thirak's voice grew angry. You broke our law. You lay with a human. You carry his weakness now. Jace's heart stopped. Jayla didn't deny it. She placed her hand on her belly and whispered, his strength lives in me. It will live in our child. A silence followed. Even Thirak didn't answer for a full minute. Then he shouted, you are no longer one of us. Jayla held her head high. Then I will become more. They attacked. Explosions rocked the edge of the outpost. The walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Jayla and Jace ran to the defense panel. Jay activated the shield wall. It would hold, but not forever. They're using plasma drills, she said. We have 10 minutes. Jace pulled out a small device. What if I overload the coolant line and vent it when they break through? It'll blind them for 30 seconds. Do it, she said. He ran. Jayla stood near the entry. Her blades were ready, but her thoughts were louder than any weapon. She was going to be a mother, and tonight, she might have to kill her own people to protect that future. The wall cracked. A group of warriors stormed inside, fast and angry. Jayla didn't wait. She moved like wind, slicing through two before they could raise their rifles. Jace triggered the vent's team exploded into the air, blinding the attackers. Together, they pushed the enemy back into the night. But more were coming. Jayla panted. Blood on her hands, scratches on her face. Jace was beside her, bruised but standing. I have an idea, he said. He pulled out the memory stone she gave him. If I broadcast this to their ship's network, maybe they'll see. Maybe they'll feel what you feel. Jayla looked unsure. They are trained not to feel. But feelings are stronger than orders, he said. Maybe some of them are ready to change, like you. She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. Do it. Jace plugged the stone into the broadcast panel. He pressed play. The feed went out. Across the sky, every warrior in the ship saw what Jayla felt: her loneliness, her fear, her first night in Jace's arms, and the moment she realized she was loved for who she truly was. The silence after was deep. Then a new voice echoed from the enemies. Channel. I understand, a young warrior said. She is not broken. She is free. More voices joined, some in anger, some in confusion, but some in support. Thirak growled in rage. Traitors. She is poison. Jayla stepped forward. Then let me be poison that heals. She dropped her blade. If you want to kill me, I won't run. But you won't stop what's already begun. Her hand rested on her belly again. Thirak raised his weapon, but one of his own soldiers turned on him. Then another. The storm was breaking not from fire, but from feeling. And in the middle of it, Jayla stood with Jace. Not as a soldier, but as a woman, a mate, a mother, and above all, a force of change. The sun rose over the scarred ground outside the outpost. Smoke curled into the air from burned metal and cracked stones. The battle was over, not with full destruction, but with something stronger. Change.CHEY. Law stood quietly near the edge of the cliff, the cool wind blowing her silver-white hair. Her armor was scratched, her hands still marked by the fight. But her eyes were calm. Behind her, the warriors who once came to judge her now stood in silence. Some had lowered their weapons. Others simply watched her with uncertain faces. They had seen the memory stone. They had seen the truth, not war, not shame, but love. Jace walked to her side and handed her a cup of warm tea. "You didn't sleep," he said softly. "I couldn't," she replied. "Too much noise in my mind." He nodded. "And now?" She looked at him with a tired smile. "Now, it's quiet." Thirak was gone. Second in command, a younger warrior named Kavi, had taken control. Kavi had not spoken much during the fight, but now he approached Jayla slowly. I believed what they told us," he said. "That humans were soft. That bonding with one was betrayal." Jayla looked him in the eye. "And now, I don't know what to believe anymore," he admitted. "But I saw how you changed. I saw strength in your tears. I saw power in your silence. I saw peace." She nodded. "Then you saw enough." He bowed. Not deeply, but with respect. "What happens now?" Jayla turned to look at Jack. Her voice was steady. "Now, we rebuild. Not just this outpost, but our thinking." She faced the group of warriors. "You don't have to follow the old ways. You don't have to live without feeling, without choice. You can be more." Some still looked unsure, but some nodded. It was a beginning. That afternoon, remaining warriors helped repair the outpost walls. No orders were shouted. No ranks were forced. It was quiet work. Honest. Different. Jayla worked beside them. No longer their superior, but their equal. Jace helped too. He moved carefully, watching Jayla every few minutes. She noticed, of course. "You're staring," she said with a smirk. He shrugged. Hard not to stare at someone who changed the future with a kiss. She chuckled. "And tea." "Yes, can't forget the tea." Later that night, they sat together under the stars. The sky was clear, wide, and full of light. A rare thing. In such a remote place, Jayla rested her head on Jace's shoulder. "I used to dream of dying in battle," she said. "I thought that was the only way to be remembered. And now I want to live. Grow old. Watch a child take its first step." He looked at her. "Our child." She touched her belly softly. "Yes, ours." Jace leaned in and kissed her temple. "Do you think your people will accept it?" "Some will," she whispered. "Some won't. But what matters is that I accept it, and you." He held her hand. "Always." Weeks passed. The outpost became more than a shelter. It became a place of learning. Of peace. More warriors came not to fight, but to ask questions. To understand. Jayla taught them how to listen, how to feel, how to love. Not just others, but themselves. Jace repaired more than machines now. He helped rebuild broken spirits one smile, one story, one shared meal at a time. One morning, Kavi brought her a message. "It's from the High Council," he said. Jayla read it slowly. "They want me to return?" To speak. Jace looked worried. "It could be a trap." She shook her head. "No, it's an invitation. They're watching now. They're afraid of what I represent. And what do you represent?" He asked. She stood tall, her eyes full of quiet fire. Change. Jayla returned weeks later from the council chambers, not in chains, but with honor. Her voice had reached more than ears. It had touched hearts. Some still resisted, but others began to listen. They saw the warrior who found peace. They saw the alien girl who once mocked humans, now walk beside one in love. They saw strength redefined. Back at the outpost, Jayla stood. Once again, under the stars. This time, her belly had begun to round. She closed her eyes and whispered, "You will grow up free. Loved, strong in a new way." Jace came up behind her, wrapping his arms gently around her waist. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Not for 1 second," she said. "Even the insults," he teased. She laughed, especially the insults. Without them, we'd never have started. And so, the tiny alien warrior who once said human strength was weak, now carried a new kind of strength inside her. Not the kind born in battle, but the kind born in love. She had changed forever.